I'm joking that acting a bit of as a psychologist. There's no way in hell that I would go through the same journey if I knew in the beginning what is in front of me. If there's no competition, it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing. That means that most likely you're building a product that nobody needs. If you will spend 2 years of your time building something and then go to market and start selling it, this is not the right way to do it. Investors are not stupid. They can see through things. If the team is strong, cohesive, there's a can-do attitude and no bullshit approach, most likely they will succeed.
Hello everyone, my name is Maria and this is Kama PR podcast. Today in our studio we have Vytautas Černiauskas. He is a startup mentor. As well, he is a sales and partnership person from the startup Work.o, and he has many years of experience working with other projects such as Uber, and he has a lot to say to startup founders and to all the members of the ecosystem. So thank you, Vytautai.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. Please tell a little bit about yourself and about your experience with Uber, with Work.o, and mentoring startups.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a long journey, a very exciting journey. Lots of ups and downs. Startup life is always very exciting and rewarding moments, and also they're tied to some lows in the journey, stressful moments, moments of uncertainty, doubt. I would probably start the story at Uber when we actually started its operations in Lithuania 9 years ago. And I call it as a startup within a startup because, well, we didn't have to validate the business model. Didn't have to invent the bicycle because the main works were already there. We knew how it works. We just had to replicate what works in other countries in Lithuania. So that was the easy part. The hard part was that, why is it a startup in a startup? We were a very small team. The first 10 months were just 2 people. My colleague who was working on the demand side with the customers, making sure that there are enough riders. And I was responsible for the supply side, making sure that when the people open the app, there are enough of those little cars and drivers to take those orders. And there's no one else to help you. You just roll up your sleeves and make it happen. So everything from ads, making sure that those drivers are invited to onboarding, leading the onboarding sessions themselves, explaining how Uber works, checking the documents, checking the cars, if everything is right, putting them online, making sure that they paid, incentives, all the support when they are having problems, and so on and so forth. So everything was on me. And a lot of other things. I was also a spokesperson for Uber in Lithuania. I was participating in a lot of policy meetings all over from different ministries. It was a lot of sleepless nights, tough times, but super exciting. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually work on starting and launching and developing your Uber's operations in your country. And I'm super happy to have experienced that.
That's impressive how a global startup are coming to Lithuania and they're having such a small team. How did that happen? Because you did such an impressive work and you worked so hard, so much, managing different roles.
There's several reasons to that. It's a scrappy mentality that you need to grow the business before it sort of warrants expanding the team. And after those 10 months, we did get an expansion. We had 2 amazing people joining the team to help us, both on the supply and demand side. Later on, the team expanded further, like next year and after that. And of course, with the bigger team, we had more free hands to do a lot of amazing things together, stunts, as we call them, such as Uber Kittens or Uber Ice Cream, Uber Trees, Uber Classic, where people either had an opportunity to order free ice cream or 15 minutes petting kittens from a shelter, yes, or a free ride with the classic car, and so on and so forth.
And you took all of this experience and later implemented in other startups and in your own projects.
Correct. So after 3 years at Uber, it was in the beginning of a new journey. So hands-on, I was working on 3 different startups as a co-founder and very, very different roles. Secondary, I think it's about the people that you're working with in different areas. Of course, it's a bit different journey, but this experience definitely helps. The mentality that you need to hit the ground running and make things happen, and also sharing that knowledge and experience with others. Mentoring early stage startups that I have been doing for over 6 years now, as a side hustle or giving back to the community, if you can call it like that. That is also an interesting area.
I know that Lithuanian startup ecosystem knows you exactly as a startup mentor. Could you tell a little bit more? What are you helping early stage startups with, and what kind of topics they can come to you with?
It's not only Lithuanian startups. Actually, majority of startups that I've been working in very, very different acceleration programs, hackathons, and startup support programs. Quite a few of them were European. So I think I've touched in a way, one way or another, lost the count, but probably hundreds of startups during those 6 years. Sometimes it's just a one-off, maybe half an hour or an hour session where you read beforehand about them, or sometimes just straight ahead what they're doing and how it can help them. And sometimes it's a longer engagement, maybe a few months or so, where you have a few sessions and can actually track their journey and push them a little bit and have some accountability of, okay, what can you achieve till our next meeting and so on. So it's different. And the topics are also very varied, because I'm mostly working with early stage startups. And when those founders, they don't have that much experience, they might be very strong technically, for example, but they don't know how to start selling. They maybe don't know how to make financial projections, or how to and when to approach investors and what to prepare and so on. So these are usually the main topics related to business development, to maybe idea validation. How do I start selling? How do I approach investors? What questions are they going to ask? What do they want from me? And how to prepare? Where do I start? And how do I make it happen?
So mostly it's connected with fundraising at the early stage.
Partly yes, but not necessarily. As I said, the topics can be quite broad, and sometimes I'm even joking that it's a lonely journey, especially when it's your first time. You don't have a network in that area.
Yeah.
It could be very lonely, and sometimes I'm joking that I'm acting a bit of as a psychologist, maybe, or to stay as strong as a shrink, because a lot of things happen. As I said, it's ups and downs. The startup journey is it's not just on roses and petals, which means that things happen, dramas happen. Maybe it's a conflict between co-founders, maybe some other things, personal or otherwise. And sometimes you just need to hold their hand and tell them that it's part of the game. Everybody goes through difficult moments, and there's no startup that hasn't gone through ups and downs, and everyone is experiencing similar maybe doubts or difficult moments. So it's also that part of mentoring.
I think that you have to be very strong mentally to become a startup founder, because you have to go somewhere with inventing something you don't really know that there's a fit for that, and go straight to investors and pitch them and show to them that you truly believe in your idea. So
it certainly takes a certain type of person to be a founder, for sure, but sometimes I think ignorance is a bliss. When you don't know what's waiting for you. If you would be looking back, probably part of the people would say, there's no way in hell that I would be going through the same journey if I knew in the beginning what is in front of me. But on the other hand, as I said, when you don't know what's in front of you, but you have this nice vision or idea implemented in front of you, it's somewhat easier. And when somebody comes with me, let's say with some idea that I think is going to be very, very hard, expensive, and would take a long time to implement, let's say it's a marketplace. And from my Uber experience, I know that marketplaces, especially B2C, extremely hard to succeed with, because it takes a lot of money, a lot of patience, a lot of time. And I know how hard it is to build a marketplace. And when they come to me and say, oh, I have this idea of, well, let's say marketplace for house cleaners, or for, I know, nannies, or for whatever that may be, my first instinct is, hell no, don't do this. Please don't do this. It's just based on my experience. It's just, you will want to kill yourself after some time, and you'll most likely fail. But on the other hand, who I am to tell them that it's impossible. Maybe the fact that they don't know how hard it is actually a good thing, and they will just have the tenacity to bring it through the impossible to something that will actually eventually happen if they have it in them. The right gene, or the right tenacity, the getting up after an nth time and continuing forward. So you never know.
They will build the best marketplace for nannies, or for I don't know, dog walkers or something. Yeah, that's interesting. And what kind of mistakes the early stage startup founders do? Maybe you can share some tendencies. What do you notice over and over again?
Yes, there are definitely some. I would probably start from the misunderstanding. I don't know. I don't even know how to call it. A lot of cases where people think that it goes like this: oh, I have this fantastic idea. I will go and pitch to investors. They will give me money, and I will go and build something wonderful, and everybody will be happy and rich and live happily ever after. Real life is not like that. Nobody will give you money as an investor for just an idea. It doesn't happen unless you already have a lot of, or a few successful exits behind you. Then it's a moment, and it's the only exception when investors will just give you money just for their idea, because they know that you have showed success previously. You know what you're talking about. You know what's awaiting, and they can sort of, their investment is less risky. If you don't have that experience of building and ideally exiting previous startup, then ideas are worthless. Implementation is key. So the number one thing, or number one mistake is that people think that they can go to investors without actual traction, because the moment when you can go to investors, and we should go, is where you already had done your homework, meaning that it's not just an idea. You built your MVP, minimum viable product. You got some traction, meaning that maybe you have signups, maybe you have initial revenue, or something else that shows that this is not just an idea, but already a start of the business, start of the startup. And then the investors can see that, okay, there's something in here. It's solving an actual problem or addressing an opportunity, and to bring it forward, I can give some money, and it can be developed and scaled forward.
And how big you should be? How many thousands of users you should have?
The rule of thumb is somewhere between, I would say the minimum is 5,000 euros monthly recurring revenue. 10 is even better. Again, the later you go to investors, the better deal you're going to get, because it's less risky for investors. So if you go them when you have bootstrapped till 20,000 euros MRR, that's even better. Or maybe you can bootstrap all the way. If it's possible, it's not always possible, because development also costs money. There's cost of opportunity. When you're working on this, you're most likely, especially if you're working full time, that means that you cannot earn elsewhere. Overall, investors' money should look at more at it, not as much as money to build something, but money to scale something. So you already have something that it's like a rocket fuel. You will probably, in quite a few cases, you can bootstrap it, meaning that you can take it from point A to point B in a certain period of time, a few years. But with investors' money, if you can put that money into into marketing, into sales, into product improvement. Maybe you can shorten that journey, not in a few years, but in like 1 year instead of 3 or 5 or whatever. And it's especially crucial for those capture the land products where you have competition and you need to be fast because the market is changing, the competitive landscape is evolving, and if you're not going to be fast, somebody else will come and grab that land ahead of you. So that was the case in, let's say, Uber's example was competing in a lot of markets with other players, and they had to have money and the so-called war chest to be able to really make it happen really fast and capture that market before somebody else does.
So you also have to have some predictions. So you have to have strong business development people or within the team or somebody else who would do the analysis of the market of your competitors to show all this data to investors.
For sure, a competition is one of the slides in your slide deck, and you need to know who you're competing against. You should look at it not directly. Quite a few times you can see in the slides that, we don't have any competitors. So that can mean two things. Number one is that you're building a product that nobody needs. If there's no competition, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. That means that most likely either the market is too small or nobody's going to pay money for it or something else. Basically, it's not a good thing. Or this number two thing, it can show that you're thinking about it in the wrong way. Because in the Uber's example, the main competition is not taxi companies. The main competition is your private car. Ideally, you would, not ideally, but you would leave your car at home and use Uber to go from point A to B. So it's alternatives, other alternatives, how you are solving this problem today. But if I need to come from A to B, or if I need to nannies, for example, you're probably competing with your grandma or you're with your mom because if you need to take care of your child. So this is how you should think about competition as well. It's much broader than just, agency E, A, B, or another platform that is somebody else is building at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe you could share also what are the trends you see in Lithuania, for example, what startups, what kind of products, for example, you mentioned marketplace, maybe like social media or something else. I'm sure that there are like trends that people are most likely are willing to create. What's most popular now?
Number one trend is definitely AI. Artificial intelligence is booming, and it's not only in Lithuania, it's everywhere. If it was blockchain a few years ago or crypto, then AI is definitely there. And one tendency that I sort of see is that as blockchain was a few years ago, I see a risk of so-called solution searching for a problem. When people see technology, which is fantastic, absolutely, and it's going to solve a lot of problems, but people think, so here's the great tool, which problems I can solve with it? Maybe it's an assistant in this or that business setting, or so-called AI agents to do this or to do that. And I think you should start with the problem and then choose the tool, not to put the carriage in front of the horse. I see three main mistakes that people usually make. Number one is that they spend too much time talking about the problem. A lot of times I find so frustrated. So it's 2 minutes have passed and you in total have 3 minutes and you're still just talking about the problem. I get it. Stop talking about the problem. You need to talk about the solution and a lot of other things. I don't know why, but people just fall in love with the problem and explain it in 3 different ways and so on and so forth. So that's number one. Number two that I see is that they fail to explain a lot of times which stage are they in. And after listening to them, I don't understand. Is this just an idea? Or maybe you already built an MVP. Maybe you have already validated. Maybe you got already feedback from your potential customers. Maybe you already have revenue and you already have MRR and you're going your journey. Don't leave me guessing. Put it straight away. And the third mistake that I see overall, not about the content that much, but more about delivery. A lot of founders fail to tell a story. And the story is the main key in delivering your pitch.
Okay.
Tell a story, tell in a captivating way, have a hook in the beginning. Tell me why it is relevant, why it is relevant to you, to me. Why are you doing it? What's your, maybe it's background, maybe it's personal, maybe it's about someone else. And just everything that you're talking about needs to somehow relate to that story. Beginning, ending. There are very, very few people in Lithuania that can tell the good story. And I think we need to definitely learn to do that. And the most impressive pitches are the ones that do tell a story and they just blow away everyone. And we definitely need to be more Americans in this way.
Wow, that's a very interesting and good point. And talking about investors, because you're working with VC funds, what are investors looking nowadays? Because I think that maybe, as you explained about the AI, maybe they're tired a little bit of this trend. Maybe they're looking for some other interesting projects, or it's somehow based with each investor's interests, or how does it work?
Number one thing, they're looking at team. So team is absolutely the most crucial thing in everything that they look at. Even if the idea is not that great, if the team is strong, they would pivot that idea, or maybe if they have been working with it for a while and it's the market feedback is no good, maybe they will come out with a totally different idea. If the team is strong, cohesive, it has spectrum of skills that complement each other, there's good dynamic, there's the right mindset, there's a can-do attitude and no bullshit approach, they will succeed. So investors want to see a strong team, a versatile team that can make things happen. So think about that when creating the team and also when pitching. How you can, well, obviously you cannot improve the picture. You cannot tell the things or paint the things better than they actually are, because the investors will find it out sooner or later. But if you do have those strong points, don't forget to highlight those and those backgrounds and relevant experience and so on and so forth. And the second thing is, of course, traction. And I talked about that already. Do you have revenue? Have you talked to your customers? What are they saying? How does the market look like? What is the potential? And the more of those traction points you have, the more homework you have done, the more customers you have talked to, the more agreements, contracts, revenue you have, the better, for sure. And investors just love founders who know everything about the market. Okay. If they can just tell them and talk to them for half an hour about this trend and that trend, okay, and this is coming, and this is just behind the corner, and I talked to this player because I know that they're going to roll this thing next, and this has this impact on this aspect of the business. Fantastic.
Amazing. And what about trends in, let's say, spheres or products? For example, maybe, that investors are really much interested nowadays in like social media or machine learning. What kind of products are the most, or maybe defense because of the world situation?
Different funds and different VCs and also different angels, they have different areas that they like. Well, VCs usually have their mandate, and angels have areas which they understand and they love to invest in. So it really depends on the particular investor that we're talking about. And some of them specialize in fintech or B2B SaaS or defense or health tech or climate related solutions, ESG and whatnot. Definitely AI is the trend. The trend. So if I had to see two trends, that's AI and climate change and everything related to those two topics. They don't have to be two in one. So there are funds, and of course it's already becoming a joke that if you put AI on anything, it will just make investors tick. Investors are not stupid. They can see through things. They have seen, if you're trying to fool someone, they have seen all the tricks in the book and even more than you can imagine. But I would discourage from thinking, okay, this is hot, that's why I need to do that. And good investors, they don't pick something just because it's AI. They pick something because of the criteria that I mentioned before, because it's a strong team, because it's good traction, it has a good opportunity on the market, and they see a potential there.
I also have one question for you regarding the bootstrapping. If you, for example, knowing all of your expertise already, would have a wonderful idea and you would need to start from the scratch without any money for that startup, having just an idea, what would you do?
It depends on your situation. It depends on, let's say you are, I will try to be as generic as possible, not speaking from my personal perspective, but let's assume that this average person has a day job. So I would encourage to work on this idea on nights and weekends in the spare time as much as possible. And different startups, they require different involvement and also amount of money to make it happen, because some of them are very tech intensive and development intensive. Okay, it's good if you have a strong technical background that you can develop a lot of things yourself, or you have a strong co-founder who can do that together with you. And if you are both working day jobs and then coding in the night and building this MVP, that is the ideal scenario. And as I said before, if you can bring it as far as possible without an external investment, that would be ideal. For example, you built an MVP, you went out to the market to validate it, your potential customers love it, maybe you already started signups, the initial revenue has kicked in, etc. And then suddenly, or not suddenly, gradually, you see that, okay, this is the moment where I need to go full time. I cannot work just nights and weekends anymore because it requires just too much time and my day job is suffering. But I can see that the investors are already interested. I went to them. I pitched them. I talked about the potential. They see that something is there. They're ready to give me an investment. And they, let's say that you're lucky because it's not easy to get that investment. The money is in the bank. The next day you say, okay, I quit my day job and I start working full time on this. Of course, investors would love to see you working full time from day, I don't know, minus whatever, even before. They love full time founders, but life is real. You also need to eat. You need to eat your family if you have one, and so on. So it's for some people who don't have a lot of savings, it's unrealistic that they would be working for a year or two full time before they have a revenue source. I'm talking about the realistic scenario. Got an investment, you quit your day job, then you full force ahead, maybe even hired someone else after getting that investment round, and this is where you're getting. Also, you should explore opportunities for maybe public funding, European Union grants, or Lithuanian Inovacijų Agentūra. There's different instruments that you can apply, maybe with someone else. It's not always possible, but that definitely also helps.
Yeah, so the start is usually tough.
It's definitely tough. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work, also a lot of mistakes, but because you cannot build the product right off the bat, and it's most likely you will have to iterate. You will have to ask the customers very, very early, ask for their feedback, come back, fix something, make a new version, ask again, and then come back again. A lot of iterations, because if you will spend 2 years of your time building something and then go to market and start selling it, this is not the right way to do it. And that's also one of the mistakes, and I have seen it happening more often than I would like to, that people invest a lot of time and money into building something that it turns out that it's not quite maybe the right time or the right audience or the right product, and you're solving the problem, but maybe you had to solve it in a different way, and so on and so forth. So ask as early as possible, validate as early as possible, and use the iterative approach or the so-called lean startup method. Can just watch don't have to read the book. You can watch the YouTube short version. It lays out the principles very, very clearly.
So somehow B2B, probably B2B startup is, from that point of view, would be a bit easier to build, probably because you already are going to customers and they are buying your MVP. And if they are buying your MVP, probably they're gonna buy the product when you grow it.
Both B2B and B2C have their pluses and minuses, for sure. It's not that one of them is definitely better than the other one. It's a bit of a personal taste as well. Overall, I would say that B2B is slightly cheaper and more easily bootstrappable. Let's put it this way. In general, I'm generalizing here. B2C, in a lot of cases, requires quite a lot of investment into marketing. You need to reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
In B2B, you can actually use your time to go out and talk to each and one of your customers, have the sales conversation, validate, bring them your MVP, get the feedback, bring another version, start onboarding them once the product is ready, etc. So that is relatively cheap. And also you're able to do that because the lifetime value of that customer is going to be much higher than in the B2C world. In B2C, it just doesn't scale. You cannot talk to 1,000 of customers personally. You need to use amplification of your effort, which is usually ads or something else, unless you can pull something really, really crazy, have some so-called, I don't know, old-fashioned term, below the line or guerrilla marketing or something crazy that is very cheap but helps to spread the word. There are a lot of creative ideas around, but it really depends on your product if you're able to
Attract.
Come up with something like that. Yes.
Yeah. We recently talked with you about some viral PR ideas for startups.
Yes. So for some startups in certain areas, that's definitely a way. You can definitely be creative and use social media and other platforms, maybe with some viral stuff that helps you get free publicity. That's possible. It's not easy to do, but with some creative thinking, a lot of trial and error.
The same as Uber did back in the days.
Yes. So those stunts that I mentioned, the idea was that when you have a very, very limited marketing budget, you hustle and you think of creative ways of how to spread the word and increase the signups, especially when Uber was an unknown in the foreign markets. In Lithuania, when we started, it was already a very well-known name, so we didn't have to do that many things. I always had trouble, or demand was also always so high in the like first year that it could barely, especially in the beginning, it could barely match the supply. So we always had problem with having enough cars on the road. But a few years before that, when Uber was still new and not that many people knew that in the States, mainly, that was the way of boosting signups and getting free publicity when you do some crazy things like Uber kittens or Uber copter, get a free ride in a helicopter with an Uber. So of course, people want to try it, and they install the app, they put their credit card details and so on. And once this initial friction the barrier has been passed, I already have the app in my phone, and the next time downtown partying on Friday night, maybe you remember that, oh, I have this app, why shouldn't I use it next time? So it's a smart way to get publicity and get signups very cheaply.
Very cheaply, and with a wide reach. That for me personally, it's also the most interesting. Besides the brand awareness, viral PR is really something that drives me because it's personally very interesting for me to work on that. Yeah, great. Maybe we can also talk a little bit about Work of All.
Sure.
If you can tell a little bit about the project, which stage you are at now. You mentioned when we talked about actually large customers, large businesses in Lithuania, and not only in Lithuania who already work with you. So yeah.
Sure. Work of All is the area. It's a very niche. We're solving a very niche B2B problem. And the problem is that businesses in retail, in call centers, restaurants, logistics centers, warehouses, and other areas where those businesses have employees that work in shifts. So you have a certain schedule, especially if you have more employees, a bigger pool. It's quite hard to make a schedule when there's so many complications. You have different skills. You have fluctuating demand. On Monday, for example, if you're a restaurant, on Monday you have people coming during lunchtime, people coming in the evening. But Monday is very different from Friday. Friday is different from Saturday, Sunday, and so on. And also there's seasonality. People love to go out in, let's say, May or September, but maybe not that much in the middle of summer when everybody is on the lakeside and so on. So there's a lot of fluctuations in demand throughout the day, throughout the week, and also during the whole year. And a lot of those businesses spend a sizable portion of their revenue or the cost percentage on the salaries of employees, meaning that you need to make sure that you cover that demand of your customers in the most rational way possible. So our system helps to do that by allocating employee hours as close to this demand as possible. And doing this with our system first makes quite an accurate forecast based on historical data with the help of some AI, machine learning. It creates a forecast, let's say 3 months in advance, every 15 minutes, how many hours or how many employees you need to basically cover that demand. And then the second step is adding employee wishes, labor code regulations, all the internal rules, employee competencies, maybe speed of work, maybe it's new employees that need to have senior employees working together, or maybe it's an internal agreement that everybody needs to have a free weekend or whatever, or I'm a student, I cannot work Thursday nights or Tuesday mornings or whatever. So all this creates a lot of headache for managers, and in order to create the most optimal schedule, incorporating all that, you need a certain system. One of the systems that our customers have been using before is called Excel. But if you have a lot of employees, if you have a lot of wishes, it's not, let's say it's not optimal. The second thing that is also a lot of change management is a lot of businesses are used to, because they don't have a good tool, they're used to the rolling schedules. For example, in restaurants, it's quite popular. You're working 4 days on and then 3 days you're off. But this is the most, those like shift patterns are the most not optimal, suboptimal ways, because your customers are not coming 4 on, 3 off. And you're not able to cover and to have employees when you actually need them. Our system, by optimizing those schedules, manages to create schedules that help to save from 5 to 15 and sometimes even more % of employee hours. So that's one. You take the hours where they're not needed, and you can put them into the periods of highest demand.
That's huge. That's huge. That's really huge.
If you think how much it costs, how much you spend on staff costs every month, 10%, even 5% is a lot of money, and we see sometimes up to 30%, which is a lot. Yes, and the second thing is also saving managers time, because it's with the push of a button, it's much easier than to think about, how do I incorporate all these things. So it's much easier to create a schedule, and also throughout the month when you need to replace someone who got sick or make some changes, maybe the demand has changed up or down or whatever, to replan something, it's also easier when you have a system that helps you with automations and suggestions, and you can actually track your efficiency and service levels and so on. Yeah, so we work with our customers are quite known brand names in the region. For example, Kesko Senukai, Barbora, Cybercare, Tele2, Bitte, quite a few others, Decathlon in the Baltics.
That's pretty impressive. And how long did it take you to build such a system?
It took us quite a while. Started before the pandemic, and of course, the pandemic put a wrench into our wheels because we are working with the service area mostly. Changed a lot of things, but it also showed that our system can adapt pretty well, and to see that drop in demand and to forecast quite well what is happening later on. But after the end of the pandemic, we started to have real traction. Even we started talking to customers before, but of course they had a pause. They didn't know what was going to happen and so on. So it took quite a while, and we're still figuring a lot of things out. Even though we have quite a sizable revenue now. But it's growing every month. We're still working with getting new customers, talking to different potential customers, and also outside of the Baltics, in different areas, restaurants, retail, and even recently ground services or aviation services in airports. It's a long journey, and especially we're working in the enterprise sales area because our ideal customers between 200 and up to, let's say, 20,000 employees in the schedule. And this means that these customers take a lot of time to think, to decide. There are a lot of decision makers and different layers in the organization. So it definitely takes time, and the sales cycles are very long.
You need a good salesperson.
We do need, and the good thing is that a lot of people in our team are doing the sales job. So everybody's selling, and everybody's working with customers in one way or another. So that definitely helps.
Mm-hmm. What are the future plans for Workofo?
To become, during the next 5 years, to become one of the main players on the European market in the workforce management. We are already very, very good. We're probably, I would say, the best in the AI optimization when it comes to schedules. We might be lacking in the admin part of the nitty-gritty details of the managing the schedule itself. But that's a conscious choice because we did start from this optimization part. And we're very, very good at it, and probably no other competitor can do it on the same efficiency level. And this is just about bridging the gap between also knowledge gap that our customers understand that this business value that they can save those 5, 10, 15%, because a lot of them already have a system in one way or another, especially in Western Europe. They have already went from Excel to some fancy Excel, as we call it, but in a lot of the times it's just creating schedules, but no optimization or some very rudimental optimization. It's called automatic schedules. But in our case, they're leaving money on the table. They're not saving that 10%. So if you're still working with this, 4 on, 4 off, or whatever other pattern, you're still not working efficiently. You're still not having your employees when you need most.
It's so interesting that you started working with AI and machine learning before it was cool, basically.
True, but we don't use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
We don't use...
Manager, how not to kill myself when employees are changing their preferences 10 times a month.
It's not what's a different kind of AI. It's not large language models. We're not working with that part. We're working with old school AI, if you can call it like that. But true, we started before it was cool.
It's very interesting. I hope that all the trends help you, and finger crossed for the Workofo success. I hope so. Vytautai, thank you so much for coming. It was super interesting listening to you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
And thanks everyone for watching us and listening to us. Please subscribe to our channel not to miss the most interesting stories of the founders and all the most crucial information for startup founders and the ecosystem. And please, if you like this episode, hit a like button, and all of the information and links to social media of Vytautas and work of all will be in the description below. Thanks everyone, and see you next time. Bye.